Girlfriend of 8 months wants her name on my car. Title because she pays for gas. Now she's threatening me with her lawyer dad, entitled Much. Hey everyone, welcome back to this channel. Today I'm going to share a story that's so absolutely insane, I'm still having trouble believing it actually happened to me. This is about entitlement, manipulation, and how someone I thought I loved tried to literally steal my car using her daddy's law degree. My name is Jake. I'm 26 years old, and I thought I'd found the perfect girlfriend. Boy, was I wrong. So grab some popcorn because this story has more red flags than a communist parade. And somehow I missed every single one of them until it was almost too late. The perfect beginning. Or so I thought. 8 months ago, I met Sarah at a coffee shop downtown. She was gorgeous. Long blonde hair, blue eyes, and this smile that could light up a room. She was sitting alone, working on her laptop. And when I walked by her table, she looked up and complimented my vintage band t-shirt. We started talking, and I was immediately smitten. Sarah seemed perfect. She was funny, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. She told me she was 24, worked in marketing for a startup, and was originally from a small town about 2 hours away. After chatting for almost 2 hours, I worked up the courage to ask for her number. She said yes with that killer smile, and I practically floated home. Our first few dates were amazing. Sarah was charming, easy to talk to, and seemed to share a lot of my interests. She loved the same movies I did, was into hiking, and even claimed to be a huge fan of the same obscure bands I listened to. Looking back now, I realize she was probably just mirroring my interests to make herself seem more compatible. But at the time, I thought I'd hit the relationship jackpot. The car that started it all. Now, let me tell you about my car, because it's going to be important to this story. I drive a 2019 Honda Civic Sci. Nothing too fancy, but it's my pride and joy. I saved up for 2 years to buy it, worked overtime every week, and even took on a weekend side job to afford it. When I finally had enough for the down payment, I spent weeks researching, test driving, and negotiating with dealers. I paid $8,000 down and financed the rest myself. The car is 100% mine. My name on the title, my name on the insurance, my payments coming out of my bank account every month. I'm not trying to brag, but I take really good care of this car. I wash it every weekend, keep up with all the maintenance, and it still looks and runs like new. It's not just transportation for me. It's a symbol of my hard work and independence. Sarah seemed to appreciate this when we first started dating. She would compliment how clean I kept it, and she seemed impressed that I owned a nice car at 26. Little did I know, she was already making mental calculations about how she could benefit from my hard work. When the red flags started flying about 3 months into our relationship, Sarah's behavior started to shift in subtle ways. At first, it was small things that I brushed off as quirks, or maybe just her getting more comfortable in the relationship. She started assuming I would always drive when we went out together. At first, I didn't mind. I actually liked driving, and I was trying to be a gentleman. But when I occasionally suggested we take her car instead, she would always have an excuse. Her car was making a weird noise, or she was low on gas, or it was too messy for me to see. Then she started making comments about gas prices. "Wow, gas is so expensive," she'd say while I was filling up the tank. "It's crazy how much it costs to keep a car running." I would just nod and agree because, yeah, gas prices were pretty high at the time. Around month 4, Sarah started offering to help with gas money. It seemed sweet at first, She would hand me a $20 bill after I filled up and say something like, "Here, let me contribute since we're always taking your car." I didn't really need her money. I could afford to pay for gas, but I accepted it because she seemed to want to help and I didn't want to hurt her feelings by refusing. I figured it was her way of showing she cared about being fair in the relationship. But then she started keeping track of it. The spreadsheet of doom. About 5 months in, Sarah showed me something that should have sent me running for the hills immediately. She had created a detailed spreadsheet tracking every penny she'd given me for gas, every mile we'd driven together, and even estimated wear and tear costs. "I've been thinking," she said, pulling out her laptop during dinner at my apartment. "I've contributed almost $600 to your car expenses over the past few months. That's a significant investment." I stared at the screen, not sure whether to laugh or be concerned. She had categories for gas contributions, maintenance share. Apparently, she was claiming partial credit for the oil change I'd gotten, and usage hours. "Sarah, what is this?" I asked, genuinely confused. "It's just me being organized," she said with a shrug. "I like to keep track of shared expenses in relationships. It's only fair." At the time, I thought it was a little obsessive but harmless. I mean, she was right that she'd been contributing to gas money. I didn't realize she was building a case. The first demand. 6 months into our relationship, Sarah dropped the bomb that should have ended everything right there. We were driving back from a weekend trip to visit her parents, more on them later, and she was unusually quiet for most of the drive. About an hour from home, she suddenly turned to me and said, "I think it's time we made this official." "Made what official?" I asked, thinking she was talking about moving in together or something. "The car," she said matter-of-factly. "I think my name should be added to the title." I nearly swerved off the road. "What? Why would your name be on my car title?" "Well, I've been paying for gas for months now," she explained, like this was the most logical thing in the world. "And I use the car just as much as you do when we're together. It only makes sense that I should have legal ownership rights." I pulled over at the next exit because I needed to process what I was hearing. "Sarah, it's my car," I said slowly. "I bought it, I make the payments. It's registered in my name. Why would I add you to the title?" She looked at me like I was being completely unreasonable. "Because we're a couple, Jake. Couples share things. And I've invested hundreds of dollars in this car." "You've bought gas," I corrected. "That's not an investment in the car itself." "It's a contribution to the car's operation," she argued. "Without gas, the car is useless. I'm essentially a co-owner already." The logic was so flawed, I didn't even know where to start. It would be like saying that because I bought groceries for dinner at her apartment a few times, I should be added to her lease. "Sarah, that's not how ownership works," I tried to explain. "If we break up tomorrow, you don't get to take half my car because you paid for some gas." Her expression darkened. "Are you planning on breaking up with me?" "No, that's not what I'm saying," I backpedaled, not wanting to start a fight. "I'm just saying that adding someone to a car title is a huge legal step, and we've only been dating for 6 months. She was quiet for the rest of the drive, but I could feel the tension radiating from her side of the car. Meeting the parents, the origin of the threat. That weekend trip to meet her parents suddenly made a lot more sense in hindsight. Sarah's family lived in a massive house in an upscale suburb, complete with a circular driveway and perfectly manicured lawn. Her father, Richard, was a successful attorney specializing in property law, and her mother, Patricia, was a former real estate agent who now spent her time on various social committees. From the moment I walked in, I felt like I was being evaluated. Richard grilled me about my job, my education, my 5-year plan, and my financial situation. Patricia made subtle comments about my clothes, my car, and my background. "So you're in IT support?" Richard asked during dinner, saying it like I'd told him I was a professional dog walker. "Yes, sir. I work for a mid-size company downtown. Good benefits, stable income," I replied, trying to sound more impressive than I felt. "And you rent your apartment?" Patricia chimed in. "Yes, ma'am. I'm saving up for a house down payment." They exchanged a look that I couldn't quite interpret at the time. Sarah barely participated in these interrogations. She just sat there, occasionally nodding along with her parents' questions or making vague comments about how responsible and hardworking I was. After dinner, I overheard Sarah talking to her mother in the kitchen while I was in the bathroom. "He's very practical," Patricia was saying. "He owns his car outright, Mom. No lease," Sarah replied. "Well, that's something, I suppose." I didn't think much of it at the time, but now I realize they were literally evaluating my assets. The pressure campaign begins. After the car title conversation, Sarah's behavior became increasingly manipulative. She started bringing up the topic constantly, always framing it as a matter of fairness and trust. "I don't understand why you're being so selfish about this," she'd say. "If you really loved me, you'd want to share ownership of things that we both use." She started comparing our relationship to her friends' relationships. "Madison's boyfriend added her to his car title after just 4 months, she'd tell me. "And Jessica and her boyfriend have everything in both their names." When logic didn't work, she tried emotional manipulation. "It just hurts that you don't trust me enough to put my name on the title," she'd say with tears in her eyes. "It makes me feel like you're planning to leave me." She also started making passive-aggressive comments about money. "I guess I'm just the ATM for gas money," she'd mutter when I'd stop to fill up. Or, "It must be nice to have someone else pay for your car's operating expenses." The most infuriating part was that she'd phrase these comments as jokes, so if I got defensive, she'd accuse me of being unable to take a joke. Tash ultimatum. 7 months in, Sarah decided to escalate. We were at her apartment watching a movie when she paused it and turned to me with a serious expression. "Jake, I've been thinking about our relationship and I think we're at a crossroads," she announced. "What do you mean?" I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I knew where this was going. "I need to know that you're serious about us," she continued. "And the car situation is really bothering me. I feel like you don't see me as an equal partner." "Sarah, I do see you as an equal partner," I protested. "The car thing has nothing to do with that." "It has everything to do with that," she insisted. "I've invested so much money in that car, and you won't even acknowledge my contribution by adding my name to the title." "You've bought gas," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "That's not the same as investing in the car." "I've paid for almost $800 worth of gas and maintenance contributions," she shot back. Apparently her spreadsheet had grown. "And I've paid for the down payment, monthly payments, insurance, registration, and major maintenance," I countered. "That's over $15,000 so far." She waved her hand dismissively. "That's not the point. The point is that I'm asking for something that would show me you're committed to this relationship, and you're refusing." Then came the ultimatum. "I need you to add my name to the car title by the end of the month, or I'm going to have to reconsider whether this relationship is working for me." I was stunned. She was essentially threatening to break up with me if I didn't give her legal ownership of half my car. "Sarah, that's basically extortion," I said. "It's not extortion. It's setting boundaries," she replied coldly. "I have every right to expect equal treatment in this relationship." The lawyer. Dad gets involved. When I didn't immediately cave to her ultimatum, Sarah brought in the big guns, her father. I got a call from her 3 days later. "My dad wants to talk to you," she said without any greeting. "About what?" "About the car situation. He thinks there might be a legal solution that works for both of us." Every alarm bell in my head was going off. "Sarah, I don't want to involve lawyers in our relationship problems. He's not just a lawyer, he's my father," she said. "He cares about my well-being, and he's concerned that you're taking advantage of me financially." Taking advantage of her? The woman who wanted me to give her half ownership of my cars because she'd bought some gas? "I don't think that's a good idea," I said firmly. "Well, too bad, because I already told him he could call you." Richard called me that evening. His tone was friendly, but had an underlying edge that made it clear this wasn't just a social call. "Jake, Sarah's told me about your little disagreement regarding the vehicle," he began. "Mr. Patterson, with all due respect, this is between Sarah and me," I replied. "Well, that's where you're wrong," he said, his tone shifting. "When my daughter invests nearly $1,000 in a vehicle, that becomes a legal matter." "She bought gas," I said, exasperated. "That's not an investment in the vehicle itself." "Actually, it is," Richard continued. "In certain jurisdictions, regular financial contributions to the maintenance and operation of a vehicle can establish a claim of equitable ownership." I didn't know if he was making this up or if it was actually true, but it sounded terrifying. "Furthermore," he continued, "Sarah has been using this vehicle regularly for 8 months. In some cases, regular use combined with financial contribution can establish possessory rights." "Are you threatening to sue me over my own car?" I asked, incredulous. "I'm not threatening anything," Richard replied smoothly. "I'm simply explaining the legal realities of the situation. Sarah has rights here, whether you want to acknowledge them or not." He paused, letting that sink in. "Now, I'm sure we can work something out that's fair to everyone. Sarah doesn't want to cause trouble. She just wants what's rightfully hers. Adding her name to the title would be the simplest solution for everyone involved. And if I refuse? Well, then Sarah might have no choice but to protect her interests through legal channels. Nobody wants that. But sometimes it's necessary." After he hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Was this really happening? Was my girlfriend's lawyer father actually threatening to sue me over my own car research and reality check? That night, I did something I should have done months earlier. I started researching. I looked up everything I could about vehicle ownership, equitable claims, and possessory rights. The good news was that Richard was mostly bluffing. Buying gas for someone's car doesn't give you ownership rights, and regular use of someone else's vehicle doesn't establish possessory claims unless there's a specific agreement in place. The bad news was that lawsuits are expensive and time-consuming, even when you're in the right. If Sarah and her lawyer father decided to file some frivolous claim, I'd have to hire my own attorney and fight it, which could cost me thousands of dollars. I also started thinking about Sarah's behavior over the past 8 months. The gradual escalation, the careful documentation, the involvement of her lawyer father. This wasn't spontaneous entitlement. This was a calculated plan. I started wondering if Sarah had targeted me specifically because I owned a nice car. Had she seen me as a mark from the very beginning? The final confrontation. Armed with my research, I decided to call Sarah's bluff. I asked her to meet me for dinner at a neutral location, a restaurant where we couldn't make a scene. I've been thinking about what you and your father said, I began, once we'd ordered. Her face lit up. And? And I think you should sue me. The smile disappeared. What? If you really believe you have legal ownership rights to my car, then take me to court, I said calmly. Let a judge decide whether buying gas for 8 months gives you half ownership of a vehicle. Sarah's face went through several expressions: confusion, anger, and then something that looked like panic. Jake, that's not… I don't want to sue you, she backpedaled. I just want us to work this out like adults. Adults don't threaten legal action to get their way in relationships, I replied. Adults don't have their lawyer parents call to intimidate their partners. My dad was just trying to help, she protested. Your dad was threatening me, I corrected. And you know what? I called his bluff. I spoke to a lawyer myself today. This was true. I'd had a consultation with a family law attorney who'd explained exactly how ridiculous Sarah's claim was. My lawyer says your father's claims about equitable ownership and possessory rights are complete nonsense in this context, I continued. Buying gas doesn't make you a co-owner any more than me buying groceries for dinner at your place makes me a co-tenant. Sarah was getting increasingly agitated. You don't understand the legal complexities. I understand them perfectly, I interrupted. Your father was trying to scare me into giving you something you have no legal right to. It's basically extortion. How dare you accuse my father of… How dare you try to steal my car? I shot back, louder than I intended. The restaurant went quiet, and I realized other diners were staring at us. Let's be very clear about what's happening here, I said, lowering my voice. You want me to add your name to the title of my car, a car I bought, that I make payments on, that's registered and insured in my name, because you've bought some gas. When I refused, you threatened to break up with me, and when that didn't work, you had your lawyer father threaten to sue me. Sarah was silent, her face red with embarrassment or anger. That's not love, Sarah. That's not even a healthy relationship. That's you trying to manipulate me into giving you something valuable that doesn't belong to you. The breakup and aftermath. Sarah stormed out of the restaurant, and I honestly thought that might be the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next week, I received a series of increasingly unhinged text messages from Sarah, ranging from tearful apologies to angry accusations to threats about what her father could do to me legally. The final straw came when I found a note on my car windshield that read, "This could have been resolved amicably. Now we'll do it the hard way. R. Patterson." That's when I decided to document everything and file a police report for harassment. I also sent a formal cease and desist letter to both Sarah and her father through my attorney. The harassment stopped immediately after that, what I learned. Looking back, I can see all the red flags I missed. 1. The mirroring. Sarah claimed to love all the same things I did, which seemed like perfect compatibility, but was actually her studying me to seem more appealing. 2. The gradual escalation. She didn't demand ownership rights immediately. She slowly built up to it by first offering to help with gas, then tracking her contributions, then framing it as an issue of fairness and trust. 3. The family evaluation. Her parents weren't just being protective. They were assessing my assets and financial stability. 4. The emotional manipulation. Every time I resisted, she made it about trust, love, and commitment, rather than the actual issue of property rights. 5. The legal intimidation. When emotional manipulation didn't work, she brought in her lawyer father to try to scare me into compliance. The real kicker. Here's the most infuriating part of this whole story. About a month after we broke up, I ran into one of Sarah's friends at a grocery store. We got to talking, and she mentioned that Sarah had pulled similar schemes with previous boyfriends. Yeah, she tried to get Jake, the guy before you, to add her to his apartment lease after like 3 months, the friend told me. And before that, she convinced some guy to put her on his credit card as an authorized user and then ran up a bunch of debt. So I wasn't her first victim, and I probably won't be her last. My advice to anyone in a similar situation: if someone you're dating starts demanding ownership rights to your property, especially early in the relationship, that's a massive red flag. Here's what I learned. 1. Trust your instincts. If someone's demands seem unreasonable, they probably are. 2. Don't let anyone guilt you. Your property is your property. You don't owe anyone ownership rights just because they've made minor contributions. 3. Document everything. If someone starts making legal threats, keep records of all communications. 4. Get legal advice. If someone threatens to sue you, talk to a lawyer immediately. Most initial consultations are free or low cost. 5. Don't be afraid to walk away. No relationship is worth being manipulated or extorted. Where I am now. It's been 2 months since the Sarah situation ended, and honestly, I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm still driving my Honda Civic Si, which is still 100% mine, and I'm much more careful about the people I date. I've learned to pay attention to how people talk about money and ownership early in relationships. I've also learned that some people see dating as an opportunity to gain access to other people's assets rather than to build genuine connections. The whole experience was stressful and eye-opening, but it taught me valuable lessons about setting boundaries and recognizing manipulation tactics. Final thoughts. So there you have it. The story of how my girlfriend of 8 months tried to steal my car because she paid for gas, and how her lawyer father tried to help her do it. To Sarah, if you're somehow watching this, buying gas doesn't make you a co-owner, threatening lawsuits doesn't make you right, and having a lawyer for a father doesn't give you the right to intimidate people into giving you things that don't belong to you. To everyone else, be careful out there. Not everyone who claims to love you actually has your best interests at heart. Sometimes they just want your stuff. Thanks for listening to my story, and I hope it helps someone else avoid a similar situation. If you've had experiences with entitled partners or family members, share your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life drama and cautionary tales. Until next time, protect your assets and trust your instincts.